They said he had a gift with the broken ones. The dogs no one else would touch. The ones that growled, snapped, and carried scars no veterinarian could explain. He never used treats. Never raised his voice. Just knelt down, made eye contact, and waited. Most people thought he was just another lonely retiree with too much time. Until a K9 handler walked into the shelter one Tuesday morning and froze. Because the way this man moved around those dogs, the hand signals, the posture, the calm authority, wasn't something you learned from YouTube. It was something you earned in places most people pray they'll never see. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we continue, tell us in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These voices matter. The Riverside Animal Shelter sat on the edge of town, wedged between an industrial park and a stretch of forgotten farmland. It wasn't the kind of place people visited unless they had to. The building was old, the paint was peeling, and the constant barking could be heard from the parking lot. But every morning at 6:15 sharp, before the staff arrived, before the sun fully rose, a man in a faded green jacket and worn boots would unlock the gate with his own key. No one questioned it anymore. He'd been coming for 3 years. His name was Daniel Cross. Mid-60s. Gray beard trimmed close. Quiet eyes that seemed to see more than they showed. He never attended staff meetings. Never came to fundraisers. Never posted photos on social media like the other volunteers. He just showed up. Every single day. Rain or shine. The staff called him the dog whisperer behind his back, though never to his face. There was something about Daniel that commanded a certain distance. Not rudeness. Just respect. Sarah Mitchell, the shelter manager, had tried to get to know him when he first started volunteering 3 years ago. "So Daniel, what brings you here?" she'd asked one morning, clipboard in hand. "Dogs need walking," he'd replied simply. "No, I mean what made you want to volunteer?" Daniel had paused, looked at her with those quiet eyes, and said, "I owe them." Sarah didn't understand. "Oh, who?" "The ones who can't speak for themselves." She never asked again. What made Daniel different wasn't just that he volunteered. Lots of people did that. It was which dogs he chose. The shelter had a back section. A row of 6 kennels separated from the main adoption area. These weren't the puppies with wagging tails. These weren't the dogs families came to see. These were the ones marked with red tags. Caution aggressive. Do not approach without staff. Dogs that had been abused. Dogs that had fought. Dogs that had seen things that broke them in ways no amount of kibble or kind words could fix. Daniel walked those dogs. Every single one. The staff had tried to stop him at first. "Daniel, that's Duke, he bit someone last month, we can't let you." Daniel had simply looked at the German Shepherd mix behind the chain-link gate. Duke was growling, teeth bared, body coiled like a spring. "He's scared," Daniel had said quietly. "Not angry. Scared." "How do you know?" "I've seen it before." Then Daniel did something no one expected. He knelt down. Not crouched. Knelt. Both knees on the concrete. Eye level with the dog. And he waited. Duke's growling faltered. His ears twitched. Daniel didn't move. Didn't speak. Just held the dog's gaze. 3 minutes passed. Then 5. Finally Duke sat. Then lay down. Then crawled forward slowly, cautiously until his nose was just inches from the kennel gate. Daniel extended his hand. Palm down. Not reaching through. Just there. Present. Duke sniffed. Then whined. Then pressed his face against the chain link. Sarah watched in stunned silence. "How did you?" "He just needed to know I wasn't a threat," Daniel said, standing slowly. Can I take him out? From that day on, Daniel had clearance for the red tag dogs. All of them. Daniel's routine never changed. 6:15 arrive and unlock the gate. 6:20 walk to the red tag section. 6:25 begin with the first dog. He never used leashes right away. First he'd sit outside the kennel. Sometimes for 5 minutes. Sometimes for 20. Just sitting. Breathing. Waiting. The dogs would watch him. Suspicious. Tense. Then slowly something would shift. A tail would stop being rigid. Ears would relax. The dog would move closer. Only then would Daniel open the gate. He never grabbed them. Never forced anything. He'd simply stand, step back, and wait for the dog to choose. And they always did. One by one the red tag dogs learned to trust him. Not the staff. Not other volunteers. Just Daniel. There was Duke, the German shepherd with bite scars across his face. There was Rosie, a pit bull mix who'd been used in dog fights and had a chunk missing from her ear. There was Ghost, a white husky who hadn't made a sound in 8 months. There was Sergeant, an older Belgian Malinois who would lunge at anyone who came near his kennel except Daniel. Sarah noticed something else. Daniel used hand signals with the dogs. Not the usual ones volunteers were taught. These were different. Precise. Military. She asked him about it once. Where'd you learn those commands? Daniel didn't look at her. Just kept walking Rosie in steady circles around the yard. Long time ago, he said. Military? A pause. Then a single nod. What branch? Army. What did you do? Daniel stopped. Looked at her. And for the first time in 3 years she saw something behind those quiet eyes. Something heavy. Handled dogs, he said. Then walked away. Tuesday morning. October 17th, 9:45 a.m. A black pickup truck pulled into the shelter parking lot. A woman stepped out. Mid-30s. Short hair. Tactical pants. Military posture. Her name was Captain Rachel Voss. U.S. Army. K-9 unit. Retired. She wasn't there to adopt. She was there looking for a dog with specific training. A dog that could be retrained for veteran PTSD support work. Sarah greeted her at the front desk. Captain Voss. Just Rachel now, she said with a small smile. Heard you might have some working breed dogs available. We do. Mostly shepherds and Malinois. But I have to warn you, they're not exactly socialized. That's fine. I'm not looking for a pet. I'm looking for a project. Sarah led Rachel toward the back kennels. The red tag section. As they approached, Rachel could hear the barking. Aggressive. Territorial. Then they rounded the corner and Rachel stopped cold. Because there in the outdoor exercise yard was a man. Older. Gray beard. Faded green jacket. And beside him walking in perfect heel position without a leash was a Belgian Malinois. The dog's posture was textbook. Head up. Eyes forward. Shoulders aligned. Every few steps the man would give a hand signal. The dog would respond instantly. Sit. Down. Stay. Heel. It wasn't training. It was muscle memory. Rachel's breath caught. She knew those signals. Those exact signals. They weren't civilian dog training techniques. They were military working dog commands. Specialized. The kind used by handlers in combat zones. Sarah noticed Rachel had stopped. Something wrong? Rachel didn't answer. She was watching the man. The way he moved. The way he positioned his body. The way the dog responded not to his voice but to the slightest shift in his posture. "Who is that?" Rachel asked quietly. "Oh, that's Daniel. He's been volunteering here for 3 years. Works with the aggressive dogs mostly. Has a real gift with them." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "What's his last name?" "Cross. Daniel Cross." "Why?" Rachel didn't answer. She started walking toward the yard. Sarah followed confused. Daniel noticed them approaching. He gave one final hand signal and the Malinois sat instantly. Eyes locked on Daniel. Waiting. Rachel stopped a few feet away. Her eyes moved from the dog to Daniel. Then to his hands. Scarred. Calloused. The kind of hands that had handled leashes in sandstorms. That had worked through injuries. That had buried dogs they couldn't save. "Excuse me," Rachel said. Her voice was steady but there was tension beneath it. "That's a beautiful Malinois." Daniel nodded. "His name's Sergeant. How long have you been working with him?" "Few months. He was a seizure case. Came in aggressive. Wouldn't let anyone near him." Rachel studied the dog. Sergeant's posture. His focus. His discipline. "That's not a few months of training," she said. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. "He knows what I'm asking." "What do you mean?" "That dog has combat training," Rachel said. "The way he sits. The way he responds to your signals. That's not shelter work. That's military." The yard went quiet. Sarah looked between them confused. Daniel didn't move. Just stood there. His face unreadable. Rachel took a step closer. "Those hand signals you're using. I know them. I used them for 8 years in Afghanistan. K9 unit. You don't learn those from YouTube." Daniel's eyes met hers. For the first time in 3 years someone was seeing him. Really seeing him. "You Army?" he asked quietly. "Yes. 22nd Military Police. K9 handler. Retired 2 years ago." Daniel nodded slowly. Then looked down at Sergeant. The dog hadn't moved. Still sitting. Still focused. "What unit were you in?" Rachel asked. Her voice was softer now. Not accusing. Just asking. One soldier to another. Daniel was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. 37th Infantry Scout Dog Platoon. Vietnam. 1968 to 1971. Rachel's eyes widened. Sarah looked confused. "What's that mean?" Rachel didn't take her eyes off Daniel. "It means he was a handler during the war. Combat tracker. Those were the guys who went out front. Found ambushes. Detected mines. Worked in jungle conditions with German shepherds. Some of the most dangerous work in the entire war." She paused. Less than 10,000 handlers total. Most of them didn't talk about it afterward. Daniel's face remained calm but something flickered behind his eyes. "We didn't get parades," he said quietly. "Most of the dogs didn't come home. Neither did a lot of the men." Rachel understood. She'd worked with handlers who'd lost their dogs. Knew the weight that carried. "How many?" she asked. "How many what? How many dogs did you work with?" Daniel looked away. Toward the fence. Toward something only he could see. 3. First was Max, killed by a tripwire outside Da Nang. Second was Bruno. Died from heatstroke after a 16-hour patrol. Couldn't get him to water fast enough. Third was King. He made it home with me. Lived to be 13. Buried him in my backyard in 1984. Haven't had a dog since. The silence was heavy. Sarah didn't know what to say. Rachel did. That's why you're here. Daniel nodded. They remind me of the ones I couldn't save. The ones left behind. Over 4,000 military dogs were abandoned in Vietnam when we pulled out. Left in kennels. Euthanized. Given to the South Vietnamese army. We were told they were equipment. Not soldiers. I never forgot that. His voice cracked slightly. Every time I walk one of these dogs, I'm walking for the ones I couldn't bring home. Rachel felt tears sting her eyes but didn't let them fall. She understood. Every handler did. The guilt. The grief. The debt you could never fully repay. She looked at Sargent. Then back at Daniel. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Would you train me? Daniel blinked. What? I work with a veteran support program. We train dogs for PTSD therapy. Pair them with soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. But I've only worked with modern methods. You've got 50 years of experience. The old school stuff. The real bond building. I could use that. We could use that. Daniel stared at her. No one had ever asked him to share what he knew. Not in 50 years. I'm not a teacher, he said. You don't have to be. Just show me what you do. How you do it. Rachel gestured to Sargent. This dog trusts you. That's not training. That's connection. That's what these veterans need. Not a pet. A partner. Like you had. Daniel looked at Sargent. The dog's eyes hadn't left him. Loyal. Focused. Waiting for the next command. Just like King used to. Just like Max and Bruno before him. You really think I can help? Daniel asked. I know you can, Rachel said. 3 weeks later Daniel Cross stood in front of a small classroom at the County Veteran Center. 12 people sat in folding chairs. All veterans. All handlers. Some from Iraq. Some from Afghanistan. Some from earlier wars. All of them had lost dogs. All of them carried the same weight Daniel had carried for 50 years. Rachel stood at the back of the room. She'd organized this. Called it Combat K9 Legacy Workshop. Most of the attendees had no idea who Daniel was. Just another old guy. Until Rachel introduced him. This is Daniel Cross. He served 3 tours in Vietnam as a scout dog handler. Worked in some of the most hostile terrain imaginable. Lost 2 dogs in combat. Brought 1 home. And for the last 3 years he's been volunteering at Riverside Animal Shelter rehabilitating dogs no one else would touch. He doesn't do it for recognition. He does it because he made a promise. To the ones left behind. The room went still. A few of the younger veterans sat up straighter. One older man in the back nodded slowly. He knew. Daniel stepped forward. Hands in his pockets. Uncomfortable with the attention. I'm not here to give speeches, he said. I'm just here to tell you what I learned. And maybe help some of you find what I found. What's that? Someone asked. A way to keep walking forward. Daniel spent the next 2 hours talking. Not lecturing. Just talking. About Max. About Bruno. About King. About the guilt. About the nightmares. About waking up at 3 a.m. and swearing he could hear barking. About going to the shelter that first morning 3 years ago and not knowing if he could even walk inside. About Duke. And Rosie. And Ghost. And Sargent. About how saving them had somehow started saving him. When he finished no one moved. Then one by one they stood. Not clapping. Not cheering. Just standing. The way soldiers stand for each other. The way handlers stand for the dogs who never made it home. Rachel wiped her eyes. This was what she'd hoped for. Connection. Legacy. Healing. After the session ended, a young Marine approached Daniel. "Sir, I lost my dog in Helmand province. IED. I was medevaced out." He wasn't. "I've been trying to work with dogs again, but I can't. Every time I try I just..." He trailed off. Daniel put a hand on his shoulder. "Come to the shelter tomorrow. 6:15, we'll walk one together. You don't have to talk. Just walk." The Marine nodded. "Thank you, sir." 6 months later, Riverside Animal Shelter had a new program. K9 Legacy Project. Veterans working with red-tagged dogs. Teaching them. Healing them. Healing themselves. Daniel ran it with Rachel. They didn't advertise. Didn't need to. Word spread the way it always does among those who've served. If you've lost your dog. If you can't sleep. If you need a reason to keep going. There's a shelter on the edge of town. Old guy with a gray beard. Shows up at 6:15 every morning. He'll walk with you. Won't ask questions. Won't make you talk. Just walk. The program placed 47 dogs in its first year. Every single one went to a veteran. Every single one had been considered unadoptable. Duke went to an army ranger who'd lost both legs in Kandahar. Rosie went to a female combat medic who couldn't leave her house without panic attacks. Ghost finally made a sound. A single bark. When his new handler, a Navy corpsman, took him home. And Sergeant stayed with Daniel. Sarah asked him why he didn't place Sergeant with someone who needed him. Daniel had smiled. A rare sight. Because he already found who he was supposed to be with, Daniel said. We both did. On the 1-year anniversary of the program, Rachel brought a plaque to the shelter. She'd had it made without telling anyone. It was mounted on the wall near the red tag kennels. It read, "In memory of the 4,000 military working dogs left behind in Vietnam and the handlers who never forgot them. This program honors their service." Below it, a smaller line dedicated to Scout dog handler Daniel Cross, who taught us that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering the right way. Daniel stood in front of it for a long time. Didn't say anything. Just stood there. Sergeant sat beside him. Finally he reached down. Rested his hand on the dog's head. And whispered words no one else could hear. "We didn't forget you, Max. We didn't forget you, Bruno. You're still here. You'll always be here." Rachel watched from the doorway. She didn't interrupt. Some moments aren't meant to be shared. Just witnessed. Today Daniel Cross still shows up at 6:15 every morning. Still walks the red-tagged dogs. Still doesn't talk much. But now he's not alone. There are other handlers with him. Other veterans. Other dogs. All of them carrying the same weight. All of them learning that the best way to honor what you've lost is to save what's still here. So now I ask you. Have you ever met someone like Daniel? Someone who turned their pain into purpose? Someone who saved others by letting others save them? Share their story in the comments. Say their name. Let the world know who they are. Because here at the Human Stories we believe the most powerful healing happens when we stop trying to forget and start trying to remember. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, if you ever see an old man at a shelter walking a dog no one else will touch, don't look away. That's not just a volunteer. That's a promise being kept. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.